All right, guys, what's up? Welcome back. Sacramento, California with Sutton. We are headed to his shop, Morse Motors, right now. We just got coffee at Naked Coffee Lounge, and we are driving an ML55 AMG today. Sutton's had a few of these. Uses them as tow rigs, which is pretty sweet. The one you're using now is a diesel, right?
Well, this one's
This is not a diesel, but you're using a diesel
Yeah.
tow rig at the moment.
Yeah, the diesel's at the dealership today.
Yeah.
Getting a new SCR cat because it's under warranty.
Yeah.
So take advantage of that when you can, man.
Yeah. So we're in the ML55 AMG today, and I'll show you guys what I'm out here for, essentially, other than to hang out with Sutton and have a good time for the next week. But there is some work involved, so I'm going to show you guys what exactly we're doing once we get back to the shop and get the day started. It's about 7 a.m., not even. I think it's like 6:30. And it is cold here in California. It's like 40 degrees right now. Probably see my breath.
With a little bit of a wind chill.
Yeah, it's not fun out here. So this is not sunny California right now.
It is what it is.
Yeah. He taught me an ML55 AMG trick for the cup holders.
It works.
Done. All right, guys, this is why I'm out here in Sacramento, California. Technically Walnut Grove, California. I'm out here to bag this S124 pre-facelift estate. And this was kind of on the back burner for the last couple of months. We've been waiting for parts to come in. They wanted to bag the car, and Sutton hit me up and said, hey, are you interested in coming out to California and bagging an S124 estate? I've always wanted one, so I jumped at the opportunity. The Commonwealth in Canada makes a bolting kit for these cars now. You guys probably remember, or some of you may remember, that about 12 years ago or so, I bagged a Mercedes 190 I had, an early 5-speed manual 190. And that was long before there were any kits available to bag them. So I built everything from scratch, basically. So having a little bit of experience in this platform, because the W201 is very similar to the 124. The fact that there's a bolting kit now from Commonwealth makes this a lot easier now. There's not a lot of fabrication involved. I'm not gonna have to cut and weld and design anything, but this car is incredible condition. This car has 66,000 original miles on it. California car, there's no rust. I drove it about an hour home yesterday when Sutton picked me up from the airport and cruised down the highway remarkably. And I'm telling you, I've never wanted one more. I think the S124 is one of the most beautiful designed wagons. The right amount of curves, the right amount of square, sharp edges. It's a beautiful car. In this example, I could not be more excited to work on this specific car. So this build isn't gonna be one episode. I planned on doing daily vlogs while I'm out here. So this might be a little longer winded than just bagging this car and being done in one episode. Also, it should be noted that it is 40 degrees right now. It might even be in the high 30s. Like, my hands are shaking. You can see your breath. It is freezing here in California. This was not the sunny California trip I was expecting, to go somewhere warmer. The pre-facelift 124 chassis Mercedes are my favorite between the pre-facelift and the facelift. And the dead giveaway, aside from the headlight, especially the US market headlight, which has the sunken sealed beam and then the fog surround, is this aggressive angle right here. The facelift has a rounded hood that meets the grille. The pre-facelift is this extreme angle, and the hood mascot is on the grille. The facelift, they moved the hood mascot back onto the hood. And so the pre-facelift, this is my favorite version of this 124, is that square front end. And when you do the European headlight conversion on this whole piece in here becomes just solid glass. And I've done that conversion on a couple 124s of my own, not the wagons, but the sedans. And it completely changes the look of the car. So this is the boxier version, and it's my favorite version. This is not the California I came out to, or that I wanted to come out to. I'm going to work on the interior. So I'm gonna start pulling interior parts first. We're gonna be putting this car on Airlift 3P, the pressure-based system, so no height sensors. Luckily, this is a management system I've used pretty exclusively in all of my cars for the most part. So it's a system I'm familiar with and kind of know what goes where. So here is what we're going to be working with. We got all of the air suspension components in. So huge shout out to Bag Riders. We've got the airlift 3P management. We've got the compressor, we've got the tank. Commonwealth kit comes with all the cups and control arms. Essentially a bolt-in kit. And then we've got Bilstein shocks that are going to go in it, and the Slam Specialty SS5 bags. That's what we're working with. What else we got?
Last of the Mohicans.
Oh, the center caps.
Yeah.
So these are new old stock, right?
Yeah, they're new boxes from Mercedes, but from my understanding, there was only 18 left in the world, and they're no longer available after this.
Pretty cool. So we've got wheels showing up, and actually there's
One more.
one in a box. Is this one of them?
That's one of them.
Oh yeah.
Came from Kazakhstan.
We've got 2 of the 4 wheels showing up. So essentially this car should be on bags and on wheels by the end of this whole saga, this series. And Sutton, instead of the Mercedes center cap, has ordered some new old stock AMG center caps to match the AMG wheels from Mercedes-Benz. And I jokingly said, since there's only 18 left in the world, you did buy 2 sets, right? And said, yep. Like it was meant to be. OEM. I think this car is going to look great on those wheels. It'll be an OEM plus look. It'll be set down on the ground. All right, so lack of updates. It's been a few hours. Pulling interior, got the side cubby off, got the inner fender trim off, running my harness first, got all the threshold taken out, up and over the wheel arch, running my power, ground, controller, and ignition power, key power, all the way up and over the inner fender, down underneath the carpet in the back, and I've run everything through the factory ductwork, which comes up to about here. Under this cover is where all the factory lines run. My power and ground, which are going to the battery, and my ignition power, which will turn on the actual system when you turn your key on. All that is now run up here to the firewall, and I just took out all the under kick panels of the dash. All I'm doing now is I'm trying to find a grommet large enough to run all 3 lines through. And I think the grommet I'm hoping to come out of is just inside the brake booster. And then we'll go between like the secondary firewall and the rain tray all the way across to the battery. All right, so car is wired, not quite hooked up yet. Are we trying to get out of here?
Whenever, bro.
It's been a long day of pulling interior and finding the path of least resistance for wiring the car. And this guy insisted on running the front air lines inside the car, which makes sense.
But it's hard work.
Running the air lines inside the car just means you need to make more room for all the lines. When normally what I'd do is run them along the brake line, fuel line path underneath. You gotta drill a hole at some point sometimes. So we're ending day 1 on the Wagon.
You missed one part.
What's one part?
Factory grommets.
Factory grommets, yeah, no holes drilled yet. We might have to drill 1 for the rear lines of the rear bag, but maybe not. Day 2, we'll finish the interior, run the lines, get the interior put back in, and be working on management. Show you guys just how clean this car is. I mean, look at the engine bay in this thing. Everything is super, super clean under the hood. Paint's in great shape. I mean, even the hood liner. It's basically a brand new car. This is what we're driving home tonight. It's giving me slight flashbacks of my 1960 W111 Fintail. This is a W110, so this is the 4-cylinder single headlight W110. It is a Fintail, but it's got a tiny little 4-cylinder in it, and it's got the single headlights, not the stack headlights like the W108s. The W111s came before the 108s and had the stack headlights. Mine was a similar color. This is a little newer. This is a 64, I think. Mine was a 1960. Definitely giving me flashbacks. So Sutton's working on that car. And actually the last time I was out here, we went to Ground Control, which is a suspension-based company up in Sacramento. And when we swung in, that car was on the lift and getting kind of like the R&D treatment. The Ground Control was designing a whole undercarriage suspension setup on that car. So it's kind of in the process of being built. Sutton rebuilt the motor and did a whole bunch of under the hood service on it. So at the moment, he's trying to put about 500 miles on that car to break it in. It's so cold in California right now. I cannot express that enough.
I can tell you that we don't have a fan, but I got these to work last time the car was here. So, yeah. So what's done to this motor? I truly can't tell you 100%. I can tell you that the engine has been balanced and blueprinted, and he's got some special Melee new old stock pistons that are no longer available.
Yeah.
Just so happen to still be on the shelf.
Wow.
So we're trying to make sure that the only this motor can go to the moon, and the only limitation is how much fuel we throw at it. So we left the factory single barrel carburetor, hogged out the fuel jet just a little bit, and now we're just putting the initial 500 miles on, minus a little exhaust leak up front due to waiting for an exhaust manifold gasket coming from Germany.
So my W111 was the 4-speed manual on the column with the Hydrac transmission in it.
Oh, that's cool.
And the Hydrac was basically like the auto stick. It had a 4-speed gearbox that you shifted on the column, just like this one. But there was only a throttle and a brake pedal down below. And what you did was you pushed the shifter in to basically put it into neutral almost, and you would shift automatically by just lifting off the throttle. And there was a fluid coupler inside the bell housing that acted like a torque converter that would allow you to come to a stop while in gear. And this was 1960. And actually they were putting the Hydrac in the Pontons in the 50s, which is just incredible, like German over-engineering in the 50s. What I did with mine was I was lucky enough to find another identical 1960 220 SB, no less, the same chrome package as my brown one, that had a 4-speed column with a hydraulic foot clutch. And I bought that car as fast as I could and put the whole hydraulic clutch system in that car so I could drive it without worry. Because my fear was, if anything went wrong in that Hydrac transmission, from the electronic control module that received the signal that you were pushing the shifter in, which then actuated a vacuum diaphragm, which actuated a rod that went down to your slave cylinder. If any of that went wrong, Mercedes-Benz would not replace it. Mercedes-Benz will rebuild and sell anything they've ever made before.
No, they won't. Not anymore.
Not anymore?
Not anymore.
I stand corrected. They used to remake anything that they'd ever made before except Hydrac stuff, and I'm sure a few other things here and there. That's what used to be. So when I had my car, I was terrified that something would go wrong with that Hydrac system, and being in this car is a massive, massive, like, deja vu feeling, because driving a 4-speed on the column in one of these cars is like second nature. And check this out, if you guys haven't seen a W111 or 110 before, the speedometer is a twisting vial, and it fills up your sight glass as you drive.
Yes, we are doing 90 miles an hour.
And now we're doing 90 miles an hour in a 1964 4-cylinder Fintail. All right, so I didn't film any of it last night, but once we left the shop, Sutton got a call about a car that we're sitting in.
So we bought it.
Went and looked at a car, E46 M3 convertible SMG.
I feel like the SMG gets a bad rap, and I think mainly it's because it's a $4,000 pump, and there was a point in time when these cars were pretty worthless. So a bunch of, people who couldn't afford the maintenance on them was buying them, and they'd buy SMGs and at 100,000 miles, and then the pump would go bad, and they're looking at a $4,600 part plus installation. I personally prefer the SMG. You can really pull some speed without ever having to lift your foot off the pedal.
Or take your hands off the steering wheel.
Yeah, I don't believe that hype that SMGs are garbage. They're expensive when they break.
Yep.
You don't hear that when your F430 SMG pump breaks.
Yeah, in the Ferrari.
Yeah. It's the same amount of money for the part, and maybe not the amount of the same labor, but
Right.
you don't have huge write-ups and people only saying buy the 6-speeds.
All right, guys, it's Saturday. Still working on the 124 Wagon. Working on management mounting. Took quite a bit of time yesterday to try to come up with an idea of where things were going to go inside the spare tire well, which this piece of upholstery covers, and trying to get everything indexed so where the tank, the compressor, the manifold, and everything hides. And you can just close that. Everything's accessible. So what I'm doing now is coming up with an idea for a frame to mount everything to. So I cut a piece of MDF. I did that yesterday. And I also cut this piece of 1-inch square stock yesterday. And what I've just done is basically made a mounting system for it that the MDF will mount to on either end of it. And then I'm planning on utilizing the threaded port here that this piece goes in that holds the spare tire in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm ultimately gonna run a bolt through the MDF to that as well. So I'll have a mount here, and then down in the middle, and all that weight will be supported. It's not too heavy, but the MDF, the compressor, and the tank are a little bit of weight. So I'll take this thing apart and I'll show you guys what I did. I basically pressed in some riv nuts on the actual support in the car, and then drilled a larger hole on the outside of the square stock so my Allen head bolts can pass through, leaving this flush so the MDF can sit flat against it, and then can be unbolted from this piece separately.
That doesn't look so bad.
Got the MDF cut last night. Got all the holes drilled for where everything needs to be. Tank, compressor, manifold, all that's done. These holes here are the mounting holes. Just got back from the hardware store with matching Allen head socket bolts, all in black. So when you open that compartment up to reveal the management, there should be continuity to everything. It'll be nice and hidden. Everything will be black. Really stoked on how this bar came out, this mount bar, with the brass riv nuts. And they're riv nutted in to the actual car as well. Between those two and utilizing the actual spare tire threaded port to use another socket bolt to actually mount lower on the MDF, this thing holds pretty well with all the management on it. And the one good thing I like about using the riv nuts on the bar in the car is I didn't have to weld it in. We talked about possibly welding it in, but this way everything's removable. Like you could take everything out and it's like it was never even in there, except for a couple holes that the riv nuts are in. I like that a lot, the modular aspect of it, to where it can all come out and it can all go back in again. Trying to keep everything reversible as best I can, especially since this car is a 66,000 original mile car in great condition. It makes things so much easier than having to through bolt things. Not have to get on the back side with a nut or anything. You just put the MDF on and screw it in, you're good to go. right, guys, well, I got the management in, everything mounted to the MDF, everything tightened up, and fits in here super well. I'm super happy with this. Everything's painted black hardware. And the whole point of this was so when you open the hatch, you don't see anything. So this cover will basically cover everything up just like it did the spare tire, and you'd never know that there's any management in here. So I'm super happy with this.
Here.
What is this?
Good sandwich.
Oh, did you put mayo on that?
Yeah, why?
I'm afraid of mayo. Nice.
There it is.
Super happy with that. Hidden away, nothing hits. Tank, compressor, and manifold. Everything's wired up, the relay's mounted. Front air lines are routed with the harness, the controller line, the key power line. Everything's hidden away. Water trap's accessible. Bleeder for the tank is accessible. Walked in. That was the hardest part because we had to design it too and get it all in. From here, I think it should be pretty easy, so we'll get it racked up. In the next episode, we'll be working on suspension, and hopefully in the next episode, we're watching this thing air down. All right, guys, well, we're one step closer to getting this S124 estate bagged and laid down on the ground. We're still waiting on one more wheel to come in. We've got 3 out of the 4, so hopefully that 4th wheel shows up. Management's done, so really stoked on that. Just got to run the last 2 rear air lines. Big part of the project done. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. A huge thank you to all of you guys over on the Patreon for all of your massive support and for being a few steps ahead of all these episodes as to what's going on out here and some of the fun stuff that's going on. If you guys are interested in supporting the channel, the Patreon link is in the video's description below. Can't thank you guys enough for all of your support. We'll see you in the next episode.